We had an earthquake in upstate New York, basically around the Great Lakes, just around Buffalo. Here we are, Buffalo, New York, Niagara Falls area. We know that Niagara Falls, I've been there a few times. It's a gorge. It's the border between the US and Canada. And this is where it took place. Magnitude 3.8 and depth of 3 kilometers, 1 mile deep, basically. So it's very close to the surface. And 3.8 is not a small earthquake for that area. Here we go. This is it right here. As we know, we've had the 7.8 in Turkey, and then 12 hours later, very strong aftershock 7.6 in the area. Right there, the end of the Transjordanian fault that goes through Israel towards Africa. And this is what we're looking at now. This is it. And this is the shake map of it. Buffalo, Niagara Falls area, and Great Lakes area. Now, we know that if we put let's put it, they don't show the fault lines, but this thing here is basically the New Madrid seismic zone, which should be called, from what geologists tell us, the New Madrid rift zone, because this St. Lawrence River, we know from Geology 101, every river is a fault line. St. Lawrence River going through Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, and all the way down. Then we have Mississippi River going up this way. And we know that there is a gigantic mantle plume underneath the Great Lakes. This is what caused the continental United States to grow. The Superior area, right here, the Coweenan Fault, going all the way down here, has caused, this is of course Yellowstone, has caused the Wyoming area to stretch. Okay, there's magma under there. So that's how the continental United States stretched. And the magma is there from about 1 billion years ago. And it's a horseshoe shape. It goes, the eastern part goes like this, and the western part goes through the central United States into Kansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, and then goes west. So that's the mantle plume there. Most geologists don't talk about. There's magma under there. We know that Maine has about 5 volcanoes, 4 of them in a 100-mile distance. And this, of course, look at this. These are underwater volcanoes off the east coast of the United States. Underwater volcanoes, Cape Cod, and this is where we had our 3.8 magnitude. And now, we did say that after the, let's go back, okay, 3.8, about 4,000 people reported it, feeling it to the USGS. And we did have the Turkey earthquakes, and we did say that the earth rings like a bell when the earthquake is that huge, and it's like pieces of a puzzle that move when you shake a puzzle board. I don't know if this had anything to do with the 3.8 in the United States, but what takes place there, you could feel the 3.8 about 10 times more than you feel it on the West Coast. West Seneca, New York, okay, that's a 2-kilometer depth, 1.3 miles. The tectonic summary, this part of southern Ontario, western New York State, has had moderately frequent earthquakes, at least since the first one was reported in 1840. The largest, magnitude 4.9, caused moderate damage in 1929 near Attica, New York. There's a lot of upstate New York names that have Greek names. Now, earthquakes too small to cause damage are felt roughly 3 to 4 times per decade, although one was felt in the 1940s and 8 were felt during the 1960s. Earthquakes east of the Rockies, although less frequent than in the west, are typically felt over a much broader region. East of the Rockies, an earthquake can be felt over an area as much as 10 times larger than a similar earthquake in the West Coast. A magnitude 4 eastern earthquake, well, this is just about what we have now, typically can be felt at many places as far as 60 miles from where it occurred, and it infrequently causes damage near its source. Magnitude 5.5 eastern earthquake usually can be felt as far as 300 miles from its source, sometimes causing damage as far away as 25 miles. Earthquakes everywhere occur on faults within bedrock, usually miles deep. Most of this area bedrock was formed as several generations of mountains rose and were eroded down again over the last billion or more years. At well-studied plate boundaries like San Andreas in California, often scientists can determine the name of the specific fault that's responsible for an earthquake. In contrast, east of the Rocky Mountains, this rarely is the case. The Niagara Attica zone is far from the nearest plate boundaries, which are in the center of the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. The zone is laced with known faults, but few have been traced to earthquake depths. Numerous smaller or deeper buried faults may remain undetected. Accordingly, only a few earthquakes in the zone can be linked to named faults, and it's difficult to determine if a known fault is still active and could slip and cause an earthquake. As in most other areas east of the Rockies, the best guide to earthquake hazards is the Niagara Attica zone. In this zone is the earthquake themselves. Now, okay, that's what they say. It's far from tectonic boundaries. But the thing is that we have the mantle plume under the Great Lakes that's been there for about 1 billion years and is still there. Okay? A lot of geologists don't even talk about that. And the New Madrid seismic zone, the rivers, basically this is the United States is basically dividing into 3 areas: the West Coast, the Central, and the East, the New Madrid seismic zone. This is basically sloughing off, just like, you know, in who knows, billions of years, just like Madagascar sloughed off Africa. And the Great Rift Valley, this is also going to slough off. The Transjordanian Fault basically goes this way. There's a lot of volcanoes there, and you can see there's not much left of this splitting off, because the Earth is growing. The Earth is growing at the size of a human fingernail every year. So all of you there, please be very careful. University of Buffalo has put out, I'll leave a link below for you, they've put out an earthquake engineer holding press conference following this New York earthquake as to bridges and things that have to, structures that have to be reinforced because of such big earthquakes. Well, an eventual earthquake, whatever, that could hit this area. So please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. All of you there, please be very careful and alert. Thank you. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.